That's
been
your-
shut down.
Have you
Gee,
been,
yeah.
And then you
That's
start
not-
investigating.
that's not-
No,
Oh,
got rid of the long
it's
distance.
worse.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Yeah, it's our deal, I can
So,
go.
Yeah,
I do.
working hard.
We did
Yeah.
get a proposal from them, and, it was pretty expensive.
a
Yeah,
lot of people around here use Starlake's recreational, and they say that it's wonderful.
You know, but the problem is with that is we needed to go into the firewall, and the recreational one doesn't work.
No.
We have to use the-
TDS should be pulling the lines for their firewire soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'll do that.
Yeah, TDS.
call the meeting back to order at 7:49. So we're bypassing the, reserve, policy and going directly to the district vehicle policy. So,
Well, Madam Chair, this, when you found some old one, and this got updated, so. Any input is, welcome.
anything on page 1 from anybody?
I have some general questions
Okay,
before we get into the public sector.
sure.
We had asked in the past about mileage logs for vehicles and are they being kept?
Yeah,
One. Okay,
and it should probably be in here that they,
It's not.
under, yes, under the vehicle maintenance record, so we do have a weekly checklist, an inspection list, and, I wrote in my notes that we should suggest that they also have an odometer or mileage log. They do have them in the vehicles now, they, I thought they.
supervisors reviewing them?
It's a daily mileage log. In the past for me, the mileage logs were always checked either, I think it was monthly.
Yeah.
That we had to check the mileage
Right,
logs.
yeah, I'm fine with that. as
Yeah.
long as it's
Yeah,
reviewed.
we're also, having them with, when they get gas, write that down too, so that our bookkeeper can check. They're taking the logs at the end of the month and just sort of checking
Right.
the fuel cards, you know, that
Okay.
thing.
A follow-up question is, are employees assigned a specific truck to use?
Yes.
Generally, yes, I mean, they
Generally.
move around a little bit, yes.
Okay, the reason being is I know, you recently told us that one of the trucks blew an engine. I wasn't sure, if they're assigned, then we can look at that individual, their driving habits, and look at their maintenance checklist and were they being followed? So that's kind of what I'm looking at is, in other words, what was the mileage of the truck, why did it happen, who was the driver, the entire scenario.
Right now, it's not being used, it's being turned on and checked. We, are gonna need to deal with it when we get finally fill out all of our distribution operators. I will say that one of the vehicles is usually used for on-call, since we have rotating guys
I
on call.
understand, that makes sense.
Yeah. But generally, there are some.
Otherwise, they pretty much stay here. On call, they take it home. Makes sense. Do we have enough vehicles to assign the appropriate people those vehicles?
Currently.
Okay, so, I don't know, at the board's pleasure, is that something we want to see done?
What?
That the employees be assigned a particular vehicle, they're responsible for the maintenance checklist on a regular basis,
He said,
supervisors review.
He said it-
Managing when getting that.
Okay, possibly.
I thought he just said it was, so,
More or less was the answer.
well, let's get into the specifics of these areas and see if it catches what you want.
There you go.
Okay. So anything on page 1 from anybody?
So before we start this, there's a lot of new stuff in here that I added, that wasn't in here before, so it doesn't need to be gone over with my two.
Yeah, I found a couple typos.
I'm sure you did, because I'm typing on a desk like this, and the keyboard keeps moving forward, and I'm like this.
I'm sorry.
Typing is not-
I'm just picking on you. I'm picking on you. Okay, page 2, Director Fuss, you got anything on the district vehicle policy, page 2?
No.
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 Pam?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
I just wanted to point out at the top of page 2 though, vehicles not used for personal use, should park in the district office overnight, not during, unless the employee is on call and has authorization for the general manager to do so. So what usually they do is they'll leave their own personal vehicle here and take the on-call truck.
I did have one thing under driver licensing. How often is the district pulling the driver report?
I don't know the answer to that. I did find out from Roberto that
Semi-annual,
they
annual?
are getting pulled, and they are kept in a file in his office, but I don't know how often. So we are in the pool notice program?
The distribution supervisor in the past has and continues to do that, but we just don't know how often.
Yeah, I don't know.
so
Okay,
under procedures, if you look at that, it says administrative assistant will obtain driver's license information on all newly hired employees required to pass it and initiate a license check. The administrative assistant will also run periodic rechecks. I don't like the word periodic, and I would rather have it say yearly. So I would like those licensings done yearly.
So let me explain the pool notice program to you.
The who?
See where it's
Oh, yeah.
highlighted, the California DMV Employer
Right.
Pool Notice Program. So I didn't know if we were using that or not, but apparently we are. And what that does is anything that comes across for anybody that you have entered into the state system, it generates a notice to you.
So if they
So
were
if
on a
they
DUI.
If they get a DUI,
Or get a
if
ticket.
they're,
Yes.
Right.
a speeding ticket, they get in a
Oh, it's on
wreck, their license is expired,
Or suspended.
or suspended, I mean,
And generally, it'll show you the points, so
Yes.
DMV used to show a 10-year records printout, but unfortunately DMV got sued because somebody couldn't get a job because their record looked like crud. So we can only provide a 3-year record, so even if we weren't involved in the full notice program, employees could go in and go get for their $5 and bring it in, but it only shows 3 years. I don't know if the full notice pulls further back than that or not, legality stuff, whatever, but being that the district is in the pool notice program, I think anybody who is operating the vehicles, anybody, not just, filtration operators, anybody who's operating the vehicle should be in the pool notice program, if they're not already.
now generally how it works is your automobile insurance carrier normally requires any of your drivers of your, authorized drivers of your vehicles are in this pool notice program.
So maybe checking with JPIA then to see whether we could change it to yearly. Periodic rechecks doesn't tell me anything. Oh, I do it every 2 years. Every 4, yeah, I want it annual, or annual or yearly.
Most companies it's yearly,
Yeah.
it'll pull unless something already pops up as an infraction, and then it'll.
I guess it doesn't hurt to say annual or yearly even if JPIA says every 2 years, we're just being proactive.
Annual's fine.
Okay.
But at least we'll be getting notices if there is a DUI or other things.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back up to what, Jim Paul had said about the on-call, unless the employee is on call. Can you explain that to me? Do we not have somebody on call every day?
Yeah.
So somebody takes a vehicle home every day? Just one?
Yeah.
Only one person?
Yeah.
But every day?
Is it necessary for them to take a vehicle home? I mean, I know that that's what you've always done, but is it necessary? When I was on call for the hospital, I took my own vehicle.
Yeah, but I don't know how to answer that, except it has been the district's practice. They are required to be within 30 minutes of the district when they're on call. So, we would probably have to reimbursement them their costs to arrive at the district when they're on call to pick up a district vehicle to go respond to some sort of emergency instead of going directly to that emergency.
Don't they get compensated for being on call?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
A goodly
A
sum.
fair amount.
Emily?
Something in the back of my brain, something that Bill said about they only have so many, like if something happens out at the filtration plant, they have to get out there, they have to be there within a certain amount of time. So they would not have time to come from home to here to change vehicles.
It's basically like a 30-minute response time, I think he said.
Yeah.
I think it's in their MOU 45 to the filter plant,
Yeah.
30 for
I
everything
have no
else.
problem with that.
Okay, I
That,
have a little problem, but
that's why I would like to see on the, vehicle log where they're going.
The end destination,
Yeah, you know, when they come in the morning, they put their mileage down, where they're going, and their ending mileage when they get done with that project, or they get back to the,
as for government vehicles for my employee, we actually have to put an end address. So when we start, we have to write down the mileage we started and the location address where we started. And then when we stop, we have to write the end location where we stopped. So that way they can cross-reference the mileage.
that's the way we had to do it.
You can cross-reference it versus your job. So there
Thank
would be
you very
work.
much.
Yeah.
You can cross-reference it on the
Scott?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you.
Well, we'll check, you know, in the mileage log, we'll check it. I'm pretty sure it's got location, destination, and all that information, but we'll make sure.
we're moving on to page 3.
Are we adding that?
No, I'm good.
What do we need?
Okay, Director Lincoln, page 3.
Nothing?
Director McVeigh.
Ditto.
Just, if you don't mind answering, Emily's question, I think under the vehicle maintenance records, we need to identify the mileage log
Oh, you're gonna put it there?
as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Why did
I
I
put
put
it in
vehicle
the
safety
daily
twice?
mileage log, but are we gonna
Yeah,
be more
that's-
specific
no,
than
that's
that?
One's
fine.
records and
Okay.
one's actual maintenance.
There's another spot that we need to change with that, but I was,
Well, it's on page 2 and page 3, it says motor vehicle safety, and then it says motor vehicle safety on page 3, so it's 2 of the same bullet point, does that make sense?
very good catch.
I'm just
See,
like,
they tricked us.
I'm just curious what's going on.
Good-
Trying to keep you awake.
Good catch.
What was that?
Well, it says motor vehicle safety here on page 2, and it says motor vehicle safety on page 3.
No, I can't.
That's true. It
I mean,
does.
should it pertain to like motor
Somebody
vehicle
was
safety
asleep at
driver's
the wheel.
license record, maybe? Because a lot of it's saying like driver's license stuff, the driver will be blah, 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 and then the other one is more towards like.
Our volunteer was being very thorough. If you didn't know we were interested in safety, we're gonna say it twice.
Your volunteer got very rummy-dummy after typing. something.
Also,
Let me tell you.
page numbers on this one too.
No, they all need page numbers, but the reason why I didn't do that is because I'm hoping we're putting it in that
Yeah,
thing, yeah.
Okay,
so
So we're
I'm
being
just gonna
extra safe.
I'm just gonna circle that and I'll figure out what that title is.
Maybe doing
How's that sound?
personal versus like.
So we're
company
still on
sort of thing.
page 3, so Director Beaver, anything, did you say? Okay, so you caught it up here too. So Emily, at the very top of the page, the, 4th bullet point, the driver must adhere to the rules and regulations of the state of California.
Sage.
But
That's that same rummy situation.
And then on page 3,
She
the
was
motor,
hungry too.
the motor vehicle safety, when we hang up our keys, do they have a key cabinet that gets locked? Where do they put their work keys?
Does it get locked, Leslie? It's in Roberto's distribution. We also have a backup set of keys that are in a locked cabinet.
But you need a key cabinet for your keys, so if somebody broke into the shop,
well, I know there's one in this office, yeah.
so just write that down, maybe have a key cabinet. And then, yes, on the motor vehicle maintenance records, we need to add the mileage logs. And then on the bottom one, the motor vehicle maintenance, the last bullet point, yes?
No, I'm sorry, keep going.
Okay, on the
Let's go
last
back
bullet,
up.
on the last bullet point, under motor vehicle maintenance,
Yes,
each employee assigned a vehicle is responsible for scheduling routine service and repairs and not annual mileage reporting, but daily mileage reporting on their own company assigned vehicle.
okay.
And that needs to be changed to district assigned vehicle,
Oh, yeah.
and it should be weekly mileage reporting.
Well, you want them to,
Log daily and report.
Yeah, log.
oh, okay,
Log daily and report weekly.
Yeah,
okay.
Now, can we back up just a second, please?
Sure.
So on the first, motor vehicle safety,
Yes,
how about if that said driving safety? Because those issues are, don't use
Oh,
your
yep.
cell phone, don't smoke, no.
got it. Perfect.
Driver safety?
Yes,
Motor vehicle
driver.
driving safety,
Oh, okay.
driving or driver safety, yeah. Driving, driver. Okay, moving on to page 4. Director Fuss,
Nothing?
Director
I
Lincoln.
do supplemental provisions. Didn't make sense, and I thought it should be gone. They shouldn't be using, if they're assigned a vehicle, they shouldn't be using their own vehicle.
Well, the first one's saying that they can't carry any tools.
Right. If they use their own vehicle, but they're assigned a vehicle for the on-call people, so they shouldn't be using their own vehicle anyway.
But what happens if we have more employees like we have in the past and they're not all assigned vehicles?
Then why are they using their own vehicle? They're supposed to be pooling.
But not necessarily. In the past, I don't believe, if you have 20 employees and you only have 5 trucks,
We don't have 20 employees,
not right now, but in the past, not everybody had a vehicle.
but that's why they should be pooling. They're not all going in 20 different directions.
Right,
Well,
They're going to a job, and they can put more than one person in a truck.
and it does say that they should be pooling where possible.
I understand that, but
There shouldn't be any reason that they use their own vehicle when they're going out on a job.
And even on on-call situations, if you have 2 guys on call, we have 5 trucks.
You
still
don't have 2
plenty of
vehicles.
Well, no, but if we had 20 employees at that point, you had 2 on call.
Why don't you have 2 on call?
God knows. It's-
No.
Yeah, you're saying we're doing what ifs, and it isn't what if. We don't have 20 employees, we hopefully won't need 20
I
employees.
think what this is referring to is somebody's coming into work, you get a call, there's an emergency somewhere or a broken line, and they get called and asked to stop by on their way in, or they're reversed at night. They've left, they're gone for the day, they're driving home, and somebody calls and says, hey, can you stop by Lashton Avenue on your way by and check this out? They are then in their own personal vehicle.
Right, but this says no employee shall carry tools in their personal vehicles. They can't do anything if they stop by. And that should be the on-call person that does that.
Is the mileage, using their own private vehicles and getting compensated for that, is that not in their MOU already? Isn't there something in there that they get reimbursed?
I don't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, it was all about
Is
traffic.
this something then that should be in the personnel manual instead of a district vehicle policy?
I think this is handled someplace else. I don't
Where did you
know
get
where.
this one? Was this from Contra?
But what about the situation where you got somebody here that has to do a drug test or something? They use their own vehicle to do a drug test.
Is it in this time?
Are you gonna pay them for everything that they do, though? That's the way I look at it. If I had to go for a
What
drug
if they
test,
use their own car to go for,
right, and you're gonna pay them mileage.
yeah.
But
Why?
wasn't it in the
Well,
MOU that if they
they're
were sent to a
required to
drug
go
test,
to a
they have to
drug
be with the manager
then they can take
Yeah, I think
take a
so.
company car.
So then you're not taking your
Well,
own
there's
personal
one available.
vehicle, you're gonna be taking probably the manager or.
You gotta be a little flexible.
Well, I think that there is, a drug test though that you might be sent for, not because they think you're under the influence. If they think you're under the influence, then someone's going with you.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
There's pre-employment.
And that's covered.
test.
Pre-employment, it's on your own dime.
Right, that's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If you're required by job, and I've had situations where I had to send employees down
But
to
see,
drug screenings.
this is just talking about tools, you know.
So you just want the first paragraph to disappear, not the examples of authorized compensation time?
I thought the whole
I'm
thing
pretty
should
sure
I
go
think,
on.
I'm almost in agreement with you that it's redundant.
Yeah,
Well, we could just, I don't know, I'm not sure where we got this.
It was
stuff.
on, it's Contra Costa, I don't know where it is right now, but it came from Contra Costa.
That's a big organization and they may have
Yes.
some sense of this might happen.
Yeah.
We could just remove.
I think just remove the
Bullet
whole
point
thing,
one,
the whole
the
supplemental,
whole thing.
Yeah.
whole supplementary
the whole
provisions.
thing.
Yeah, because I don't like C under bullet point two either.
So anything else on this page for you?
If they drop all that, I think I'm good.
Okay, Director Beaver?
I'm good.
Okay, so I had a concern
So we're
on,
taking the whole thing out.
yep, on problems and accident reporting. I think it needs to be clear in here that an accident must be reported the same day it occurs. So not after each use. So I don't know where we can put that in there. And I want to make sure who verifies that an accident reporting kit is in the vehicle.
Can I, if I can interrupt, suggest that an accident should be reported immediately?
No,
No?
no.
Well, okay, because of the potential for injury or something, there may be a delay, but,
You could say with motor vehicle after each incident and provide a detailed account of the
Yes.
incident that occurred.
okay.
After each incident, that's not saying right away, but it's saying, you know, it needs to be done soon.
It has to be done the same day. You want it,
Definitely.
yeah.
That's like workers' comp.
The reason why is, and I probably have told you the story before, I had a carrier that had a bug in her eye. She was 15 miles out, drove all the way back in to say, I've got a bug in my eye, I'm reporting an accident, and then has to go back out on her route, you know? So you don't want them to go out there and they've stubbed their toe or
Well, no.
whatever and come back. So when you immediately report it, it doesn't mean, you know, so I hesitate on the word immediately.
So,
Actually,
So you could put with motor vehicle after each incident, provide a detailed account of the incident that occurred within that day,
by the end of the day.
within that day.
It's not always a motor vehicle accident.
Yeah, but this is a motor vehicle policy.
Right.
Well, hallelujah, there we go.
I'm thinking the actual physical accident, you hit something with the vehicle,
Yeah.
somebody hit you.
Oh, Beverly, wake up. Okay.
I wondered where you were going.
Hello. Okay,
Okay,
something about same day, I know after,
by the end of the day, I was.
okay, there we go. I'm happy with that.
Can something go in there being that it has to be reported to DMV? Because you only have so many days to report an accident, whether you report it to insurance or not, it doesn't always go over to the DMV side.
That is true.
I don't think that's a requirement.
It is,
For DMV it is.
it is.
If you have a physical accident, not a bug in your eye, you hit something, somebody
You
hit you.
hit a pole, you hit a mailbox, you hit a parked car.
Unless the DMV knows the.
Federal
Yeah.
never does that.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to report,
I
because
agree,
then it,
except it is required.
Okay, so we add another bullet and say to be reported to DMV.
yeah, and it can be done by the general manager, I mean, or who.
Well,
or the supervisor.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do we have to report it to JPIA?
Yeah, JPIA might not necessarily report it, because like my auto insurance won't necessarily report it to DMV if I was to get in an accident.
But I just wonder, that's probably one of the insurance bullet points on there, so I'm not gonna worry about it.
How many days do we have?
I think it's 10.
Let's
Okay.
say there's 5.
So are we done with the district vehicle policy? We're now to district vehicle operation policy. Okay, anybody have any issues on page 1?
I do not.
Okay, so that policy is the old policy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the old
That's
policy?
the old
Yeah.
one.
Well, this is old.
Okay,
Let's get rid of
This
that.
is the old one.
This one go by, we wanted to put in the old one so you saw it.
oh, okay.
Still has supplementary.
Let me see if I marked anything on it though. I did not. Okay, water theft policy.
Yeah, well, we found, a water theft policy that looked like it was maybe 2015, something, I don't know. And it has, some violations, but then it has a whole recitation of the California Penal Code, and we didn't feel that that was, necessary, so Emily
Yeah.
did a new one here, so go ahead, take it away.
So it was just 3 pages, and 2 pages of that was California Penal Code. The exact wording of the penal code, I didn't feel like that was necessary, just making reference to the penal code, you can go and look it up. And the penal code changes all the time anyway. So I got rid of that portion.
I think the only thing that, aside from if there's any ideas that you might have, you know, probably less of a problem today because we're not in a drought, but this is more of an issue when we're in a drought. But you have some violations here of 250, 500, and 1,000. That was the same numbers that were in there before.
Correct.
I don't know if we found anywhere, any other district that had a different,
I did,
uh-huh,
several of them.
okay. Were they the same violation or not?
They actually didn't have a violation on that one. So, I can't answer to that.
Yeah.
I do know that this does happen because there's a fire hydrant on Lassen Avenue, and I've seen this happen before, years ago.
There's
And
a couple of ones out at the edges of the district that people during years of droughts did hook into and steal water.
They have been locked off.
Yeah.
They
It's
should be
easy,
locked
yeah,
off.
I think it's easier.
Yeah.
The policy seems fairly clear and has your definite fines, and the fact that you would also have to pay for an estimated amount of water, and it does not relieve you of potential criminal charges either, which is appropriate.
So Director Lincoln,
I had a question with the word fine. Do we have the authority to fine people, or are we giving them a penalty?
Well, they may not even be a customer of the district.
well, yeah, because item number 3 on page 2 says penalties for tampering, and then
Right.
4 says in addition to the fines.
Right.
I
Can
agree.
Can we fine somebody? That's a criminal thing,
I think you have to take it to the courts.
right? But here it says that we're fining them, so.
I think we need to modify number 4 and say, in addition to the penalties,
Yeah,
will be, so you get a penalty, let's say your first violation is $250, and then we estimate that you took 3 units of water, we're gonna charge you per unit, and that should be in addition to the penalties.
Right.
We can't fine. So
Right.
we
And
can't.
there's 2 places, there's one on the second page and one on the number 6 on the third page,
Yeah.
which just says fines.
We also need to fix it'll be billed at the industrial rate, which is number 4, it probably should be like the domestic rate.
yeah, because that was my
Yeah,
question, do we
yeah.
still have industrial rate? Okay, so we're gonna change that.
Which one?
Industrial, page 3 of the,
Change it to what? Domestic.
right there, yep, see where it says industrial rate?
Yeah.
Or M&I.
So while we're on page 3, number 5, you talk about it though with number 4 saying offender, and here you say defender, so it needs to really be offender.
Where do I say offender? Oh,
Number
okay.
5, page.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Anything else on any of this policy? So the water theft policy after that is just actually showing us what you had previously, which is old,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So,
Yeah.
The recommendation is to get rid of all
In answer to your question on the
State
fines, the penal code does say any person who does any of the following is guilty of a misdemeanor and is punishable by imprisonment in a jail and/or a fine not to exceed $1,000 or above.
That's done by the court, not by us.
Right, right,
And the fine wouldn't come to us,
right.
so.
Right, so under number five, if this person does not pay us a penalty, we can file criminal charges under that penal code. But the courts would then go fine them, and the money would go to the courts.
Yeah.
Right.
Not us.
Okay.
Okay, fraud prevention policy.
Again, another old one that Emily found, and I said, let's update it.
Okay, anybody with page one, any comments on page one? Anybody with page two,
I had a general comment.
on page one?
Well, I don't know where it should go.
Okay,
I think it doesn't say that this applies to the directors. And I think some of it should apply to the directors also. I didn't know where to put that. I made a note.
I thought it did.
administering.
I didn't, it talks more of staff and I didn't see where
So page 5, it says managers and directors. I think, maybe that's the wrong thing.
Responsible for it.
yeah.
It does
Was it
not.
in the ethics? Was it in the ethics one that talks about directors if they do bad? I read something.
I think it should be in here though, under fraud, because it talks of using your position, for,
So, this policy here was the one that I got off of a government site. That was a free one, for public and government agencies. And I changed, some of the titles and whatever, the wording wasn't right, I used our titles,
right.
but pretty much.
But it talks of staff all the way through, and I think it should be
Yeah,
like it says on that page 5.
Yeah, the last page, talks about staff, could be staff,
And it say any employee,
could be staff and director,
because we are employees
or
technically.
staff manager and director.
So our ordinance that's been referenced in a couple of places, which is 200407, which is the ethics, the mission statement and ethics policy, that's where it says directors are obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. Directors will comply with applicable laws regarding conduct, including conflict of interest, financial disclosure, and open meeting laws. And then non-discriminatory, safeguard of district property, conflicts of interest, confidential information, relationship with the board and general manager.
So I could just go in here and I can just add board of directors.
It's included in there though, because misappropriation of district properties is fraud.
I think you could probably just say, yeah, if you wanted to say something about the board of directors are covered in a ethics policy or something of that nature. That might cover, just maybe board of directors are covered under a different policy, which is the ethics policy.
But does it actually say fraud, waste, and abuse, or fraud?
Misappropriation.
Well, we don't, I don't know, I think this should say, this is different than than the ethics one.
Yeah, I think somehow, I don't know, Emily, what do you think? Somehow we gotta,
Well, how about under this manager and directors, we state in here that this fraud policy applies to them also.
That'll work.
Well, under that one, you need to say supervisors also. Are you on page 5?
yeah.
Yeah. It should be supervisors,
Yeah, I got that marked too.
yeah.
Where are you marking
Managers and directors.
Where you see that? Oh, yeah.
So maybe at the very end, after manager, board of directors.
We're going out of
it?
order.
Well, I guess I figured that, department supervisors were staff, were employees,
Yeah.
and then they didn't need to have their own separate thing.
Well, I think we could add them in there, but let me just help, I think
Okay.
here we can find a spot that'll take care of it. Under the introduction, number 2, this chapter is concerned with the occupational fraud, i.e. fraud committed by CCSD at directors, employees, or contractors in the course of their work.
Okay,
That should cover,
That will take care of it.
Yeah.
okay,
That's good.
okay.
that way the rest of this
Under number
document includes you as well.
Sure.
It's just, and the reason why I think it's important to have it here, not just referenced in the ethics, is because this also describes prevention and process to deal with it. So,
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we're good, we're moving on to page 2. Any questions on page 2, Director Frost?
I don't know.
Director Lincoln?
No.
Director McFay?
No.
Director Beaver? No. Okay, I do. Under policies and principles, so that first paragraph says, to achieve this, the CCSD will comply with requirements of public government agency accounting. So I don't know what that is. So I was just curious of what that really is. Is it state? Are we talking state? Could be a little more clearer what agency accounting we're referring to.
That was just in the template, and that's how it was worded, so you can do whatever you like with it.
Okay, I don't like it.
What would you suggest in its place?
Well, it's either gotta be state or county. I mean, we have some requirements that we have to give the county.
Just mention them all, federal, state, and county.
I just didn't like the word public, I guess.
All governmental agencies?
Yeah, we're a government agency, so isn't it our own,
Yeah, we're a
Yeah.
government agency.
yeah. So when it's our own accounting system. That's the way I read it anyway,
Okay.
when I read it.
Just to clean it up a little bit or something. If you could get rid of the word public, I'd be happy.
It's not even on my sheet anymore. Disappeared.
So, we're just getting rid of the word public?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Invisibly.
Okay.
So on the third bullet point,
Yes.
I don't like where justified. So take appropriate disciplinary and legal action in all cases.
Where appropriate?
Well, no, why do you need that at all? Because it says take appropriate disciplinary and legal action.
Which automatically
In all
implies that
cases.
it's appropriate to
Right.
Where
transactions.
appropriate.
Yeah, well, right, so it's not, that implies that it's justified. So I just don't know why we need where justified in there.
Well, just leave, just say, where appropriate, forget justified.
Yeah, just put in all cases, take appropriate disciplinary action. Okay,
All right, it's gone.
okay, next, page 3.
I think and I'll have Emily take a look at it, and at the end of page 2, top of page 3, we might insert a couple of and board of directors. In other words, it says CCSD staff must not defraud the CCSD, other CCSD staff, or clients or contractors, so we can add,
Okay,
we can add the board in a couple of those.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Even though they're covered in the beginning, I think we can.
Consistency, board of directors. So on that
on page 3, the only thing I wanted just to talk about was the CCCS, it's one of the bullet points on that top page. Will cooperate fully with an external investigating body. So we're talking like with audits or grand jury or something of that nature?
Law enforcement,
Okay.
Where appropriate.
grand jury.
Okay, all right. And then my other question was, the action to be taken, again, we're referring to ordinance 2004-07, so we know that that's going to be changed to something else.
Right.
So just to make sure that we get that switched. And I loved reading this after, we should have caught it, because if somebody is profiting from an official position, I think excessive overtime is profiting from an official position.
Absolutely.
And that was the fraud. So there you go. He said.
So do you want it spelled out more close,
Do you understand what I was saying?
yeah, oh, I do.
Okay.
But I would think it would be good just to put that in there. I mean, we have been exact on everything else.
I.e., you mean example?
Do you really need, because you could put a lot of examples in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but when I read that, I went, oh my gosh, here it is. There's the,
Right.
Including excessive.
no, because it's clear, that's it. You know, that's profiting from an official position.
But what is
Beverly, help
excessive
me out
overtime?
here, where does it say that?
Well, page 3, under action to be taken in the event of discovery, we're down at the bullet points, and it's
Okay.
1, 2, 3,
Fifth,
4, 5th bullet point. Profiting from an official position,
Okay,
excessive overtime.
yeah.
So,
Poor Kayla doesn't.
I don't get a choice.
no, it has nothing to do with the current board.
It's not you.
It's not you.
It's not
We have
you.
good turnover on staff.
And to me, an official position is a manager.
Yeah, right.
Okay, anything else on, that was just my note there that I wrote that down. So
You just
we're,
wanted to go.
I know it just, I saw that.
Editorial comment.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
editorial comment.
Parenthesis.
Yeah. I'm okay. Page 4. Any comments from anybody?
No.
I have one. Down at the bottom, very bottom, the bullet point for the general manager, item number 2. So the general manager will be responsible for enforcing CCSD anti-fraud policies, including taking disciplinary action against supervisors where supervisors' failures have contributed to the commission of a fraud. What about the disciplinary action against other staff? Where does it mention maybe supervisors then taking disciplinary action on the other staff members? Or it just seemed like it was lacking, that you've got Paul taking disciplinary action against supervisors, but where are the supervisors taking disciplinary action?
This is just bookkeeper and accounting and.
Well, the bullet point before, so the way I interpret this, the way I wrote it, is that if we have a fraud situation, it's the general manager who is going to take care of all that, no matter what level of staff that it is.
Keeping the finance committee
So
apprised.
the first one
Yeah.
says,
With the
instigating
finance.
disciplinary and legal action, and or both. And then if it was caused because of
Failure
the
of
lack
oversight.
of the supervisor doing what, overseeing, then Paul would also go to that person.
Oh, would also do disciplinary action against the supervisor. Okay. Okay, thank you for that explanation. I can accept that. Thank you. Okay, page 5. Any comments?
I just had that one where supervisors,
Okay,
for managers, directors, it should be manager, director, or director, manager, supervisors. Somehow you gotta get them all in there.
I think,
So I still go back to a supervisor is an employee and they are also a staff member. So
Right.
it's already covered.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's a semantics thing, is that, in our case, our managers are supervisors. And so at the beginning here, you say managers are the first line of defense. against
Actually, it
fraud.
shouldn't say manager, it should say department supervisor.
Yeah.
yes,
There you go.
that's what he wants.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
So for me, the top,
Sorry.
Top line I don't like.
yeah, so the top, at the very beginning where it says appointed investigator, the appointed senior member of staff will be responsible for investigating allegations of fraud.
What if it is the senior member of staff causing the
Make it
Exactly.
make it what, Emily?
Make it the general manager.
Well, it's not, it could be Bill, couldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, who appoints this senior member? Who, appointed investigator?
I think
That
the
guy
board
right
should.
there.
Well, what if he's the one causing the fraud? So then at that point, the board should be,
Well, wait a minute,
Well,
because there's
if
something
they're-
in here where it states that if it's that person, somewhere in here.
But just because they're seniors shouldn't mean they get the job. The appointed member of the staff, how about the general manager's appointed member of the staff?
About the senior member of staff appointed by the general manager.
Can I make a suggestion that we consider anyway? Our shop steward, because he deals directly with the union, and if there is fraud, the union may want to be involved in part of
I
it.
think that's a conflict of interest.
You think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
Our shop stewards.
I think take out senior, the appointed
I agree.
yeah.
member of staff.
I mean, you want somebody with experience, if they don't have to be here all the time.
Right.
To be experienced.
Right.
so the last paragraph in that appointed investigator then says, to carry out these duties, the appointed member of staff will have unrestricted access to records, board members, general manager, administrative assistant, auditors, and legal advisors. Okay.
So do you want to say at the very beginning that the board of directors will appoint
A staff member.
a member of the staff?
Well, you have to take into case all potential scenarios. You know,
Yeah.
whether it be a staff member, a supervisor, or in a rare case, a general manager.
Right.
So you're trying to create a policy that covers all
Yeah.
potential. So maybe it does have to come back to the board, the finance committee possibly.
When there's fraud and you've got a whistleblower, you've got a staff member that's, who are they gonna go to? They're gonna go to you.
Right.
And so, because you're so limited on staff, you're then not gonna say, okay, Kayla's gonna be the one to investigate it, because, so, I don't even know if we need an appointed investigator. I mean, yes, we need to investigate it,
Yeah.
but I think the general managers has got to have that role.
See,
Well, yeah.
I would say we need to find some language here, because usually it's the general manager for all fraud investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
And then there's
saying.
usually a paragraph somewhere here, that if
Right.
the general manager is the subject of the fraud accusation, then the board is to appoint somebody.
Right.
So that, to me, something along those lines in that
That
first
sounds good to me.
That sounds good
Yeah.
to me.
paragraph is fine. So in other words, if an employee who has read our fraud policy So I think the general manager is committing fraud, then I'm gonna call the chair and ask the chair to deal with this issue, and they can then appoint somebody, then the board then can appoint the shop steward or somebody to go investigate. Or they could ask their finance committee to do it, or whatever else it may be.
So the way to put it would be that the general manager will be responsible for investigating the allegations of fraud unless they are the subject of the investigation, then the board of directors will investigate.
And obviously, they can do the investigation, or they can appoint somebody to do the investigation, they could ask the committee to do the investigation. They could call the attorney for the district and say, you know, we've got this accusation, please investigate.
Yeah, can you say that again? Unless the general manager is.
The
Under,
subject of the investigation.
or under
Subject,
investigation,
that's
yeah.
the word.
Subject of
Of the investigation.
fraud, alleged fraud.
Right.
Okay, so while we're still there under the appointed investigator, if you go to the second bullet point, you've got the last part of that sentence on that one says, and reporting to the full board of directors. We're missing a word. So lay on it, got it?
Oh, yeah.
Got it?
And then, down at the bottom, just make sure that where you say manager should inform the board of directors that it says general manager. And then the last two paragraphs, so maybe that one too, where it says manager should. I do not like the word should,
It should be will.
it should be will.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So,
they're required.
yeah, so manager will, they, and second paragraph, they will.
Yeah,
The last one, there's two in there, should be
Yeah.
will, okay,
I'll fix it.
all right, thank you. So, page 6. Any comments on page 6? Okay, so, ordinance 2008-05 talks about, the fraud prevention policy and accepted accounting principles. Anyone have any comments on changing something on this ordinance?
Well, that's the old
That's
ordinance.
the
that's the
old
old
one,
one,
that's
too.
the old one, and that was your fraud prevention
Right.
policy is this ordinance.
Right,
So this one.
So this one will
This
go
one
away,
will supersede that.
yes.
so we won't have the ordinance at all?
No,
No,
we
we
just
won't.
hoping it will supersede.
So we haven't figured it out yet?
Well, we just did.
Yeah, no, I think what we would have, if you are okay with the edits and updated policy, we will have an ordinance 2023-08
Whatever.
that says this ordinance is the blah, 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 and it's adopting these new edited, updated fraud principles.
Correct.
Okay, however, there's a part of this old ordinance that if we try to use it, I don't like.
Use what?
But
the
we're not
old
gonna
ordinance?
use it.
But it'll be superseded.
Yeah.
It's
It will-
superseded.
it
I
goes
know,
away.
but you don't like generally accepted accounting principles.
Okay.
I don't quite understand that.
So what Paul just said was that we are going to say an ordinance by the board of directors regarding fraud prevention policy that has been updated, blah, 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 and this will be changed. But it won't, maybe not necessarily all be changed, right? We're gonna take part of this ordinance?
No.
No,
The old one
we're
is
gonna
next.
adopt a new one.
this
It's a new
ordinance,
ordinance, yeah.
this ordinance is the fraud prevention policy. And we are doing a whole new fraud prevention policy. So it will supersede this one in its entirety.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'm still not being clear. Is there an ordinance that's going to be attached to this fraud policy?
I would assert that since the previous fraud prevention policy was adopted via ordinance, that we would want to adopt the new one via ordinance.
Yeah. and that's what it
Thank
says.
you.
That's it.
So if we are adopting a new ordinance, what's the verbiage in that? There's something in the old one that I wanna make sure is not in the new one.
Okay, what is it?
On the front of this, you
We
mean,
just
something
did
in here
that.
that you don't like? Is
What,
that what you're saying?
yeah,
It
yeah.
said-
Yes,
Okay, go.
okay.
You don't want Colleen Wogelman's name in the motion?
Oh, no, this one's Johanna. She passed it.
We
Okay.
don't want Char.
It won't be, it'll be the five of us.
Nowhere in the new policy does it talk about in the paragraph where it talks about, whereas as a part of the fraud prevention policy, the board of directors acknowledges that investigation of any alleged wrongdoing must be treated with the utmost confidentiality and therefore authorizes the finance committee to conduct closed meetings at which such matters may be discussed.
I don't
Well, I
like
can't
that.
do that.
Well, it was in this ordinance.
You want it out.
Maybe any other.
I just wanna make sure that it does not be part of, because nowhere in our policy are we talking about the finance committee doing anything.
Got it.
It's basically full board.
It would be a board closed session.
Yeah, so I just,
It'll be a brand new ordinance. Without that.
thank you. It could have,
But
You
it,
want
but
that
we didn't put that in there.
we haven't done the new ordinance yet.
No, but it will rescind the old one.
There,
I guess we're getting loopy doopy here.
you want that whole paragraph gone, correct?
Correct,
In the ordinance.
correct. Does anybody else believe that needs to be in there?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got it, and yes, we're getting rummy-dummy.
Okay, so
Too late.
the fraud prevention policy on the next page is all the old one.
Everything else is old and no longer.
Okay. So this is the old one.
Which is in effect right now.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
correct.
That's why we're changing it.
See, that's why we're updating it.
And in there it says, as part of this confidentially policy, CCSD formally authorizes the finance committee to conduct closed meetings.
But that won't be in the new one.
Correct? It's not correct. Just wanted to make sure that it's not. Okay, where are we? Do we wanna do the capital improvement, or do we wanna go to?
If you don't mind, 'cause this is really, I would like to just quickly do it, because we really, this is an introduction. At the last meeting at the planning and steering committee, we had an assessment of the district and what's needed into the future by Director Fuss. We had talked about that there's a real need in the district to have a capital improvement plan. And so I just put down some notes about how they're done and why they're done. You know, it's to manage our infrastructure and assets to best serve the customers long-term. They are also asset management plans, so you can use a little portion of that to be that. You can help identify short and long-term needs financially for the district that are not generally part, but in addition to operational revenue and expenses. In many cases, an approved CIP is used in the rate setting process. So in other words, we already have in our base rate, the 1081 portion that goes to some specific things that have been identified, but usually that's more justified when you have it as part of your capital improvement plan. And so even those items would be part of our capital improvement plan. They usually have a length to them. 5 or 10 years, I'm gonna suggest, since the district hasn't done one, that we should probably do a 5-year one and then kind of update it and look at it. That way you have a 5-year sort of horizon, but also it helps inform the next Prop 218. But then you can have a whole list of things that need to be on it in the future, right, that you've identified. You know, basically the general, you know, GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officer Association, AWWA, and others, they kind of have these definitions and different things. So usually you have an overview, which is kind of your district history, plan and purpose, and relevant elements to that. You have your CIP planning process, so schedule start and mid and end approval. You have a whole stakeholder, you know, input portion of it. where we can have some community meetings and different things like that to help with it. You also have your funding sources element to that, so non-operating budget funds, some long-term and capital financing plan. You also have funding strategies in there, so you have a combination usually of grants, rates, bonds, maybe some other kind of things to revenue bonds to help it. Then you have your different categories of improvements and project prioritizations, and some major project initiatives. You also have sort of your recommendations and funding and timing. Then you have some benchmark elements to it. So you have ways in which it can be controlled and how you report to both the steering and planning committee and the board. And then you have your attachments, which are all your major projects, your 5 or 10 year project list, your district asset list. And so I would argue for Clear Creek, you would want a CIP that has the treatment division. So you've got your plant, your filter trains, backwash ponds, pipes, and all the rest of and the big tank that's up there. So you identify the capital need. Obviously, the backwash pond project will be one of the first ones on that list of your CIP. But we have filter trains that are all aging and need to be updated. You also really, after this boil water thing that we've had, and all of the drought, and interactions with Centerville, I really think you need a 4 million gallon tank up there. We've got room for it, but something that gives us a little bit more time when you got to take your plant down. So I'm just coming up. The building needs to be a review. I think we should put solar up there. So hey, why not leverage solar to redo the roof and maybe around other things? So those are things that you would have in the treatment division. In your distribution division, you got 100 miles of pipelines, you got your boosters, your well, and your tanks. We already have a project, that SCADA electrical one, so that would be like on the list here. But we have a distribution line renovation project that we're trying to get some grant money for, that we've made some applications. That would be on this. But you would also have things like, do we need to go and refurbish the wells? But should we put a 4th well in? Those kind of things that you would want to look at in a CIP for the distribution system. And then you have your administrative. You got your facilities here, the main office equipment, your shop, the yard, the shed, the boardroom, the driveway that needs resurfacing. All of those things are a combination of your opportunities. And then the other thing too is you could identify in your CIP some revenue generating things, whether it's a solar project, or maybe we, maybe find a cell tower person that wants to come here, or maybe use whatever. There's just some ways in which you can, if you actually know what your assets are and how you manage them, that you can actually find some other ways to generate some revenue, and even potentially some joint use options with some of your neighboring districts. So those are just some ideas on a CIP. In other words, this is very early. Usually what you take is your 5-year water master plan and your other stuff, and you fold that into it as well. So again, this wasn't intended for a major thing. I just wanted to get it before the board and the community that this is part of what we're thinking, and it's really in response to the board's inquiries on this anyway.
Do you have a timeline for preparing the CIP?
Well, me and my horde of staff will get this done like that. I don't, but my general time frame.
Goal, what's your goal?
My goal is to have a CIP before the board, like a really good one, in the early part of next year, because I think that folds into the next thing that's big for the district, which is Prop 218 and rates, and so you kind of need this. I believe you need this to help with that. And plus, that gives you an opportunity to have some community, a CIP. I think a lot of times, districts in the past and others that I've worked with, they look at this as they hire an engineering firm and they sit down, they figure out everything, and they write it all down, and they say, this is what we're going to do, and it's going to cost $100 million in the next 5 years, but we're going to try to get some money to do this. I look at it as a way to engage the board and the community to talk about our assets and how to make them better and think ahead, think about our kids, what are we gonna do, what are we gonna leave to them? So to me, that's what you wanna use it for. And the other reason to engage the community with that is it helps you fold into all the other initiatives that we have to do. Plus, board members and members of the community oftentimes have a better view of things than we do. So they can say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?
I think the community just wants the lines repaired.
Yeah,
There's so much more we can do though.
We need more than that, Madam Chairman.
Oh, absolutely, but that's what I said, that's what the customers'
Yeah.
big concerns are, is they want that lines replaced. That's all you ever hear from them, is the wasting of water.
All right, so thank you for hearing me out. Again, I've spent a bunch of time trying to put together the framework. We will have to get our engineering firm involved with some things, but it's gonna be a good process.
Okay, so we are going back now to the reserve fund policy.
Can I touch on one thing so I don't forget it before we hit reserve policy? And that is, because of the last number of years of drought, the board, did not allow applications for ag or irrigation waters for customers. And I know a number of customers who purchased property and the prior owner was an ag customer, they were refused that. We're now in basically a full one, and I'd like to see us open that up again.
I thought we did.
I don't think we have.
Oh, well, if we had, we should.
If we're not in a drought, it doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Well, but people wanting to apply for ag water, I know there's only a penny difference for HCF right now, but there's no reason to think that that won't alter one way or another.
Stick it in the news, put it in the newsletter, that people who are wanting to do agriculture can now apply.
So I also thought there was a codicil put in there with something that said on a case-by-case basis, the general manager could approve, ag application on a case-by-case
I
basis.
didn't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I think it's a really good point, and I think we need to go back and try to do some investigating here. But the minute you rescinded all drought measures, that's done.
Yeah.
So I think we need to do a few things. One, we need to be more clear in our newsletter, use all the water you can afford, and if you were denied or did not apply for ag water, please come in and do that and apply for it. We also need to look and see what properties or accounts changed hands in the last 2 years, let's say, that didn't, that were ag, that didn't apply, and then we could send them a direct thing that says, we're not in a drought, we want to be an ag customer type of thing. And to me, again, I think to Director McVeigh's point, it needs to be clearer that can happen. And even though there's no big financial gain by doing it right now, that doesn't mean it will be different in the future.
I think it was last year sometime when Cedric was still here, so it hadn't been like a whole year ago this spring, that they made that adjustment on, I don't know if it was an ordinance or policy.
Don't believe so.
Oh, I know they did.
Nothing I have read or found indicated that, because from my memory, not that it's perfect, they did not address any of that because there was only one drought.
No, they did
Yeah,
stop.
it was in the drought ordinance, as I recall.
That there be no new ag
Right.
customers.
Right. But then we changed the drought ordinance.
Yeah, I'll find it for you guys.
Okay.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, before we move on, Caitlin has pointed out that when we remove that paragraph from the ordinance,
Which one?
The utmost confidentiality of the investigation for
with,
fraud.
that is not specifically said in the plan, so I would like to add it at the end of.
You're gonna have to tell me where we're
Yeah,
at.
where are we?
Is that the fraud policy?
On the fraud ordinance,
On the fraud
Fraud.
ordinance or fraud policy?
Okay, on the ordinance where you had us cross out
Yes,
the paragraph,
yes.
At the end.
it made the statement that the investigation of of any alleged wrongdoing must be treated with the utmost confidentiality. That is not specifically stated in the policy, so I would like to add that without the board of directors in that sentence, to the end of the section of appointed investigator.
Okay.
Would you say that again? You'd
At
like
the
to add-
at the end of the appointed investigator section, just make a statement that says that the investigation of any alleged wrongdoing must be treated with utmost confidentiality.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we good with that?
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Sure,
Okay.
Madam Chair, we are at the 3-hour mark.
yeah, and we still have the reserve fund policy.
Yeah, and since it's not completed, I'm gonna suggest that we punt it to another meeting.
I would like to give her a couple of things. Can we say, well, 15 minutes? No?
That's fine.
So,
All of our abilities to think clearly are in direct proportion to the sore rear end that we have, so.
Beverly, can I explain to you what happened with this document?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Paul went into Word, he made some notations, he redlined through, he made notations that you can do in Word on the right-hand side. Then he came down with COVID. So he wasn't here to ask questions or have any direction or whatever. So I went into this document, and based on the crossouts that he had done and his little notations over here,
Which are unreadable.
I changed the documents. And he had notations in there that he needed descriptions and whatever, and so I came up with descriptions. But the document, Paul and I have not discussed this any further as to what he really wanted to have in there, not have in there. I didn't know, I just went in there and did
Okay.
what I could do based on no directions.
Okay, so I just have a couple of quick comments
Yeah,
then.
that's fine, that's
And
great.
if anybody's got
Give
some
us,
quick
give us
comments.
some direction.
So, page 1.
Okay, hold on, let me find it.
Are you intending to go through every page?
No, well, maybe. I just the highlights. I just got some highlights I wanted.
I guess the feeling that people want to move along here since it's 9 o'clock.
I know they do. I'll be quick.
Okay, go.
You've got, the distribution system is over 100 miles long, range in size from 42 to 2. Can we please make it 2 inches to 42 inches instead of 42 to 2?
Why is that even in there, was my question.
They've done that in the past as far as just in the last reserve fund policy, give a history of the district.
Why?
I don't know.
If it was in the past, it doesn't need to be in this one,
Except that I don't think that's right.
because it could change, and then you'd have to redo the policy.
That's true too.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
so
I agree with,
suggesting
Yes.
I don't
no
think,
introduction and no discussion of intent for the policy. They just go right to the reserve policy.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I don't think we need a long introduction with the history of the district and all of its information.
Okay.
So, intent of the policy, in just about every district that I've ever looked at, they have some intent.
Yes, exactly.
And
I suggest.
The previous, so in other words, we can hack and get rid of almost everything on the introduction. It basically say, the district board
Okay, so you,
desires to have a reserve policy.
okay, so you'll
The
clean that up.
intent,
Okay,
start there.
all right. Page 2, second paragraph, or the first paragraph if you take it. You've got aging spelled 2 different ways, just be consistent. The second aging is the United Kingdom, I had to look it up. But the first aging doesn't have the E, the second aging does.
That's under the introduction.
That's introduction we're dropping now, isn't it?
Well, no, they're gonna modify it. He wants to have some in there. I'm just saying if she uses the word aging, just make it, the other,
I didn't use the word aging, but
Go.
That was in the
Keep going.
document.
Keep
Yeah, just be consistent, that's all. And the other thing is that we'll have a later time, is you talk about triggers, and then some of them I just didn't understand if there was a trigger. That was it for me, there was other things, but that was my big deal.
I think the other thing too, just for the board's purposes, you know, we need to update the names of some of these reserve policies. Like, there was an old USBR emergency reserve. We now have something called just an operational reserve.
But
So
I thought the USBR, we do have, for the contract, we are supposed to have a
Yeah,
reserve.
that's what I was.
Well,
That's
we
my-
will confirm that, but my understanding in reading the old reserve policy is that that was part of the contract as it related to, what we're resolving with the WIN Act. But I need to confirm that.
Okay, okay.
And if so, then we need to fix on one of our accounts in our bank,
Yeah.
to say USBR reserve.
Yep,
There's a few others that just need to be updated. Some of, as you can see, we updated, some of these ones, like, do we need still the backwash ponds car fire project reserve or the car fire account? And yes, they do, we're gonna need them at least for another year or so. For the car fire account, by the way, we made an insurance claim as a district. The, JPIA wrote a $500,000 check, we stuck it into this account and paid for things out of it. There's still some money in that account, so that has to be reconciled by actually the end of this year. In other words, either we gotta get some of it back, or we use some of it. So, I've got a whole bunch of others, there's, you know, we don't need this discretionary reserve and a few other things. But we just need to go through this and update it more, and if you have other things you want to.
I would be happy to see you update it more and bring it back at a different time.
I love it.
so, comments from Director Lincoln?
No, I thought this was a good meeting, so I like doing it this way.
Agreed.
Yeah. Director McVeigh?
Saved a lot of board time for the regular board meeting.
I agree.
Yeah, so just to that point, it's our intention, that we will, I don't have any wood up here except my noggin, to, bring some of these, like the administrative, the vehicle, the water theft, and the fraud policy to the next meeting. And hopefully, it'll be under new business, but just to confirm.
Director Fuss, any closing comments?
No,
I agree, I enjoyed this immensely.
You were wanting to talk about the finance committee, whether we wanted to do this
Oh, yeah.
for finance committee or.
So what's the pleasure of the board in having, just like what we did this evening, having a special meeting or a workshop meeting with the full board for finance? And one of the things coming up is going to be budget.
yeah, we're looking at the budget for next year.
Yeah,
Are we prepared to do that?
Yeah.
And we're gonna do it through the new bookkeeping system, so we'll have more line items to look at and get a better picture of things. Okay, so I'm okay with that.
okay,
Madam Chair, just knowing time and everything, I think the next regular board meeting,
May 17th.
May 17th, currently, all I have on my mind for that meeting are these policies, another review of the LAFCO MSR. Hopefully, all of you received my document that I sent to you, so I just wanted to let you know that I found even more mistakes, by the way, than they had before, and a whole bunch of stuff that carried over from the Center bill.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And so, so hopefully you'll get me any more comments, like, that shouldn't take very long, in other words, we've kind of gone through that. So I kind of think that at our next meeting, we're gonna make that a budget workshop.
very good,
We
okay.
can
So we can do it all together. In other words,
Yeah.
instead of having a separate finance committee meeting as a special meeting on the Tuesday or at 5, let's just do it all at the meeting.
Sounds good. That
And
sounds
so my plan is to have for you, very similar budget proposal to, pass budget that looks a lot like the third quarter, budget to actuals. But some of those, like a utility isn't gonna have all of the different PG&E accounts involved in it. So have that, and then I have a whole bunch of spreadsheets of like employee costs, projections for, base rate revenue and water sales revenue and much stuff.
One of the things that was really nice to see, that they did like last year's budget, even though it's, off the wall and bad, if we could have some of those line items was what was in there so we can compare to see if we're really just off.
I have a graph that has basically all the similar categories as close as we can to compare them with last year's budget for those categories. In some cases, we have new categories that didn't have anything from last year.
Right.
And in some cases, we got some split up categories that we're gonna do. But you will have a proposed budget and the previous budget. And the previous budget as amended last month.
Right.
Yeah.
When in our planning are we going to address how we're going to deal with our delinquent accounts and what our game plan is? Because we've got to get a game plan that we're leaving too much money sitting around and we can't afford it.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it at the last meeting, as you recall, and we definitely have staff activated on just how to deal with it all, number one, and proposals on that, as well as looking at our different software and all the different reports to actually identify those delinquent.
But how much it would cost us to, if we had the part-time person
Right.
working more hours,
Yeah,
or
I don't
we
know.
have to come up with a game plan. We can't keep kicking it 2 weeks down the road, 3 weeks down the road. It's too much money to do that.
Yeah. I know, but I'll be reporting to you on Wednesday, the 17th, thoughts on that, what we're doing to do that. And then we can figure out other things to do from there.
And I did want to add, I appreciate when I called, the staff member identified themselves by name. And I so appreciate that. So, in the past, when you called, they would just say Clear Creek. You had no idea which female you were speaking to.
Yeah.
So, thank you if you shared that with
So
them.
do you know who Joe is?
No.
If you've got that person that answered. Clear Creek, this is Joe. Okay.
Joe's Bar and Grill?
I'm lost.
Well, I am thrilled to say that in the last month or so, we've got everybody saying the name.
Yeah, I appreciate that immensely.
We're trying.
So let them know it's very much appreciated.
You hear that, Caitlin?
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask, closing comments from the floor?
Madam Chair, are you gonna set another meeting because you have 5 more policies?
We'll get to that. We'll
We'll discuss it on the 17th.
Yeah, we'll see how close we are with everything else. Okay. Everybody good? Time is 9:12, meeting adjourned.